water to ice. Typically, as matter decreases in temperature, its density rises. This means that most substances obtain a greater mass per volume as they cool. If liquids cool beyond a certain temperature, referred to as their freezing point, they become solids. But the solid state of most matter is generally more dense than its liquid state, meaning that a solid will most often sink to the bottom of a liquid of the same substance. Rocks, for example, will sink in a flow of lava, as will a silver spoon in a vat of molten silver. Strangely, the most common substance on Earth defies this generality. Water, which covers 71% of Earth's surface and is essential to the survival of life on the planet, loses density as it cools to a solid. Water freezes or turns to a solid at 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit in the form of ice, and because the density of water in its solid form is less than water in its liquid form, an ice cube will float at the surface of water in a glass. To understand why the density properties of water differ from those of nearly all other substances requires an understanding of the electron structure of a water molecule. Water is made up of the elements oxygen and hydrogen, with a single molecule of water consisting of one oxygen atom joined to two hydrogen atoms. These atoms are joined by covalent bonds formed by the sharing of electron pairs. A stable oxygen atom has 8 electrons revolving around its nucleus. It has 2 pairs of bonding electrons, one for each hydrogen atom, and 2 pairs of non-bonding electrons. These non-bonding electrons are capable of forming relatively weak intermolecular bonds, called hydrogen bonds, with the hydrogen atoms of other water molecules. Because the number of hydrogen bonds to each oxygen atom equals the number of non-bonding electron pairs, water molecules can join together to form a 3-dimensional network in which each oxygen atom is bonded to 4 hydrogen atoms by 2 covalent bonds and 2 hydrogen bonds. The equality of hydrogen atoms and non-bonding electron pairs makes the molecular structure of water different from that of any other substance capable of forming hydrogen bonds. All other hydrogen-based molecules can bond into rings or chains, yet they lack the bonding capabilities to form 3-dimensional structures. Although the molecules of water are able to configure themselves into a highly ordered 3-dimensional structure, they do not always maintain this form. As a liquid, water possesses sufficient kinetic energy to break the intermolecular hydrogen bonds between its molecules. As water cools past its freezing point, however, its molecules lose the energy required to resist hydrogen bonding. Ice, therefore, assumes a 3-dimensional molecular structure. The order of this structure prevents water molecules from getting too close to one another. As the frozen water approaches its melting point, however, these bonds begin to loosen. As molecules break free, they become trapped inside the structural cavities and occupy the void spaces between molecules. As ice turns to liquid, therefore, it acquires more molecules per unit volume. The density of liquid water is thus greater than that of solid ice, causing ice to rise to the surface in a glass of water. As water heats above its freezing point at 0 degrees Celsius, however, thermal expansion, that is, the tendency of water molecules to pull away from each other as they acquire energy from heat, and the trapping of free water molecules in structural cavities act as opposing forces. Until the temperature of water reaches 4 degrees Celsius, trapping forces overpower expansion forces. Thus, between 0 degrees Celsius and 4 degrees Celsius, water becomes progressively denser. Beyond 4 degrees Celsius, thermal expansion takes over, and the density of water becomes increasingly less. Warm water at the bottom of a frozen lake, for example, will rise toward the surface where cold air cools it and sends it sinking back toward the bottom. Only near-freezing water and ice will remain at the top. This cycle continues until the entire lake underneath the ice layer reaches 4 degrees Celsius, a temperature at which many fish and other water organisms can easily survive through the winter. The fact that ice is less dense than water, therefore, proves not only unusual, but necessary for the survival of many life forms on Earth.